Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
Now Daddy sits on the front porch swinging, looking out on a vacant field. Used to be filled with burl and tobacco, now he knows it never will. Brothers found work in Indiana, sister's a nurse at the old folks' home. Mama's still cooking too much for supper, me, I've been a long time gone.
Hello and welcome to Season 6, Episode 6. I'm Liz Wolfe, your co-host.
And I'm Mike Wilner.
And thanks for listening. And it's very exciting because we have surpassed our 100th episode.
Unbelievable. It's amazing.
I believe it. We've been working it.
Yeah.
So today, Mike had a great conversation with Darrell Scott of the Darrell Scott String Band. And we're also going to do a quick festival recap of the Telluride Festival and Porch Stomp.
Yeah, it was an amazing conversation with Darrell. We went really deep. Hope you enjoy it. Please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, Brooklyn spelled BKLYN, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, you can drop a line, mike@bluegrassbrooklyn.com. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or just want to say hi to myself or Liz, we promise we'll respond. And also, if you're looking for jams in Uptown Manhattan, Riverdale, the Bronx, New Jersey, or increasingly around the world, check out bluegrassjamsnearme.com.
All right, let's get to the interview.
Okay, let's roll. So here we are with Darrell Scott, the frontman of the Darrell Scott String Band, and so much more. Darrell, first of all, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Hey, Mike.
First question I'd like to ask is, do you consider yourself a songwriter singer, or a singing songwriter, or is that a distinction you really think about?
I am a singer-songwriter. One thing I like about that title per se is that it doesn't really give a genre. Mm-hmm. Although some people think singer-songwriter is a genre. But I would point out that Stevie Wonder is a singer-songwriter. Hank Williams was a singer-songwriter.
I had the impression for years that a sort of songwriters had a special aura and they get this lightning bolt from above and suddenly a song pops out and just a very, kind of divine and special thing. And what I realized, having written a few now, that can happen, woken up in the morning with a song running through my head. But more often it's a labor, there's work, there's technique, and there's method involved. So can you give us a little insight into your songwriting process?
Well, I find the better songs come from that mysterious place you're talking about. Like sleep has a mystery to it, so to speak, in the dreams, or the thinking in the top of the morning before the clutter and before the regular regime of marching thoughts begin and take over our day. If we want to call it mysterious or divine intervention, those are all kind of special, precious kind of titles, but there is a mysterious quality to writing songs. And then there's also, of course, a giant toolbox, because I am a player as well. So I bring my playing abilities, arranging instrumental portions, turnarounds, all those things come into play. I'm not without those.
Right.
But the better songs come from a place that I can't say where they're coming from. I have no idea. Where did last night's dream come from? Right. All I know, I suppose, is that we go to sleep and therefore there's a possibility of a dream, but it almost has its own timing, right?
Yeah.
Dreams and all that kind of stuff. I would put songwriting somewhere in that department at times. At other times, you're just working it out like you might do the New York Times crossword puzzle. And it just takes your time. You sit down and you have your brain and you have your experience. But I find that better stuff comes from the mysterious, inspirational style place. But I can function in either way. But I do know that the better songs come from that other place.
It's funny you mentioned crosswords. I experience what I call my crossword puzzle mind, meaning I'll do a crossword puzzle and I'll be absolutely stumped by everything I read. I'll look at the clues. I can't get a thing. And yet I put it down and pick it up 3 days later and just chunk my way through it and fill in almost every box.
Yeah. That's wild. The same text in both cases. It's the same crossword puzzle. One day you're stumped, the other day you're clicking them off.
And I get the same experience with songwriting. I'll write a song and there's a line or something which just doesn't work. Yeah, there's a line, but all right, it's a placeholder.
Yeah.
And I rack my brain and I go to a thesaurus and I try the limited tools I have. And then one morning I'll wake up and say, oh, that's the line.
Yeah, and I'd say that that's not an unusual way of being when it comes to the writing songs and stuff. Yeah, and somehow it's a play between those two places. One where it's happening very naturally, and you're just holding onto the pen and the guitar or the banjo or whatever you got. And the other is, you're marching through in a very logistical kind of way. But a song that's only filled with logic is not the same song as one that's filled with something that makes the writer of it cry while they're writing it. There's a very different response to the writer, but also the potential for that same kind of response, emotional, for example, would come out for the listener as well.
Well, I know I've got some songs which I wouldn't sing to other people, just they're too personal. And I'm told those are the ones you need to sing, Mike. And I keep them under wraps.
Yeah, in a way, I mean, I lead some songwriting workshops, usually 1 or 2 a year down here in Nashville at my house. And we kind of get into the nitty gritty. How vulnerable are we to be within our songs? And my point of view is full tilt. That's how vulnerable we should be, as fully expressive as possible, And the part that's keeping us from that may not be the song. It's us as the gatekeepers of what we're going to show to the world and what we're not going to show to the world. That's where the conversation of I'm not going to do this song will stop. It's the gatekeeper, not the song. The song didn't come with a mandate like, hey, I'll give you this song, but you just can't sing it to anybody. That's not what happens. So it's the working with the gatekeeper is the problem in that situation.
Interesting point. Let me ask you this. Lyrics versus melody, do you find the same level of inspiration and motivation from writing melodies, or do you have a partner who writes that? How does that work?
Yeah, in terms of the inspirational part, both are validly inspirational. Music is moving all by itself, or can be, and lyrics are moving by themselves too. You put them together and then you arrange them depending on the musicality, dress code. So if it's to be in a bluegrass kind of dress, then out comes the bluegrass things versus a blues this or a rockin' this or just spoken word with, some instrumental background. So there's many ways to put the lyric and the music together, so to speak, in terms of how it comes out at the end. But they're both as inspirational as the other to me. They really become that mysterious thing again. How did this work so well, Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And my answer is neither comes first. What comes before the music or the lyric is actually the inspiration to get off my butt. And a song has my attention. And I stop what I'm doing and I go to pay attention to the thing that's knocking on my door. And that precedes the music and the lyric. So that's the missing link in the subject of talking about which comes first, the chicken or the egg. There's a thing that comes ahead of it, and it's that inspiration part. Again, I'm looking for that because I know that it's the better song writer is the inspiration part. And so I kind of wait for those, which also means that I may not write a song for 2 years. Or I may write 2 in this very afternoon.
I wanted to ask you about, have you been involved in the production process? Like Mike and Darrell will meet at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday and write 3 songs about lost love. And, we'll be done at 5:30 and those will go off to be demoed. Have you been involved with that process as well?
Right. Well, the part about the clock is correct. You meet at a certain time. But the expectations of 3 songs or its subject matter or this or that, I've never seen that in all my 30 plus years of being here.
Okay.
But the part of agreeing to meet with somebody, and I put that kind of writing closer to blind dates, just as the blind date might turn into, your next wife, so to speak, or husband or whatever. Or it could be just a blow up in your face, like some of the blind dates are, like you have nothing. But I'm very careful with who I do write with.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been just, hey, here's my calendar, publishing company, just fill it in the way you feel like, and I'll be there. That's never, ever been anything I've done. I'm very careful of who I'm partnering with because, again, if you kind of go back to the part where you hold the songwriting at some higher purpose thing that you mentioned, I kind of see it generally that way myself. I'm careful at who I bring that around to or with based on the expectation from it. So I would never walk into something that said, let's have 2 or 3 songs of this subject. That'd be like, that's the definition of how to make sure that I don't show up with anything.
Yep.
I won't do that. This is my time and this is my ability, and this craft or art or whatever that I've worked on for all these years doesn't get smudged around like that. It just doesn't happen. It ain't going to happen. In that case, I'm the gatekeeper.
Right.
And I will not allow that gate to be open to where I think I'm supposed to go do stuff like that. Now, I have met with writers. Sometimes we come out with really good stuff. And I have a theory on that one. Your song will be as good as the 2 people writing the song, if it were 2, are honest with each other. So it really comes down to a vulnerability and an honesty with each other, because the song will simply be a reflection at best of how honest and vulnerable and straight up that you were with each other. You don't come out with a brilliant song when 2 people are just bluffing their asses off with each other.
Right.
All you're going to get is a bluff ass song. It's as simple as that. So again, I'm very careful with who I do sit with, because I do feel that the art of songwriting is not one to be slummed around very easily. Otherwise, you will pay the cost, which is you'll have a slummed song at the end of your meeting.
I love the distinction there. I could see it combines sort of a degree of discipline and professionalism, saying I'm going to be here, point in time, be prepared, etc. But it leaves open the door for the inspirational aspect.
Totally. And the conversation that gets picked up by the 2 possible strangers. A lot of, blind dates, so to speak, of songwriting exist. And, what are you going to do with your 2 to 3 hours with this stranger? And you fill in the blank. However, those 2 people or 3 fill in the blank, that's what you get. Including, you didn't get a song, but you got to hang around with a really cool person for 2 hours and talked about everything, or talked about nothing. And you spent 15 minutes and decided, hey, I got to go. Yeah, I'm professional enough to show up on time, just like at a gig. I will be there at the Grey Fox, as it states I will. And I will then bring, the best I got at that particular afternoon with the people that I'm playing with.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the Darrell Scott String Band.
Sure.
When did the band come together, and maybe even why did that version of the band come together?
Yeah, we're talking about this in the last week or 2. It seems like our first gig was 2010, maybe. And basically, there's a great festival out in Colorado. It's under the Planet Bluegrass flag of Telluride, but they also have Rocky Grass and Folks Fest. So there was a time when I was doing something with any of the 3 of those quite often. So one time Rocky Grass asked me to bring a band as opposed to the solo me to their Bluegrass Festival. And these are the people I chose in 2010. Like, that's who's going to be at Grey Fox. And it's the same band here these 16 years later. And the addition we've added just in this very year is Rob Ickes, just a superpower dobro musician. He's fantastic. And so it's the same group. We've got Matt Flinner on mandolin and banjo, and he just goes back and forth between those 2 instruments. Most people know Matt as, Mr. Mandolin. And some people don't know that actually he started on banjo first, and he was a monster there before he went to mandolin. He probably plays more banjo than he does mandolin, because he's a very particular badass banjo player. He really is. Shad Cobb is on fiddle. Shad can play everything on the stage, but he stays on fiddle. He's one of those guys. And he sings and he writes his own songs and such. He's just a monster player. Brent Davies on upright bass, played with Tony Rice, Peter Rowan for years, Guy Clark, Jack White, Patty Griffin. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff, diverse stuff, you know, she's wide open as a player. And then me, I stay on guitar so far. And then Rob Ickes on dobro. So there's our string band right there. So basically, that's the Darrell Scott String Band featuring Rob Ickes is what we are calling this, because Rob is the new element in town of this group.
So we get to hear the expanded string band up at Grey Fox.
Yeah.
Do you guys tour as well?
Touring sounds like a bigger word than what we do. I mean, on the one hand, yes, we tour, meaning we leave our homes and go up to festivals. Yeah, we just returned from Strawberry Festival out in California. But we're not hitting whatever the number is, 20, 30, 40 festivals a year, whatever. We're more like the 6 to 8. It really comes down to what festivals, want us. And we show up because, again, we are professional and stuff, but we're not like all out driving in a van together with a trailer on the back or anything like that. When we get a gig, we bring our instrument and show up and render. And so this year, I think we have 6 or 8 or something like that festivals, but they're good ones, Hardly Strictly, Grey Fox, Strawberry, Rhythm and Roots down in Bristol. So a little of that circuit of sorts, but we're not doing the full tilt, every weekend we're out.
I know I've spoken to enough bands to talk about that life, and you really got to want to do that and be willing to do that. And then also...
Or have no other choice.
That's a good point. But, we have a lot of small venues here, medium venues, but, very active scene here in Brooklyn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got the people who kind of cycle through these venues is amazing to me, at least. I just want to pull one of them aside. That how on earth does what must be the economics of this justify coming all this way, eating, sleeping in places, even in your van, driving all that gas? You're here in New York, it's an expensive city. Maybe you're staying overnight, maybe you're not. I mean, how is it possible that the economics are justified?
Well, they may not in terms of, to the bookkeeper, but I guess it's what we do, and you find, your level or try to improve your level of whatever, wherever on the food chain that you find yourself. And, there are times maybe in one's life that you do all that stuff and couch surf or share hotel rooms and all those kinds of things. But, at this age, and it's been going for a while, I've been lucky enough to be in good situations where I'm not in a van and sitting on a bass amp, as we travel across the country. I've kind of just almost never done that except maybe when I was in my teens or early 20s. And it's all in the pursuit of playing music. Hey, this is what we're going to do. And so there's just many levels on the ladder of where and how to do all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm always amazed how the love of music drives so much of what happens in our community. By our community, I mean bluegrass, country bands, more traditional, I guess, Americana roots type music. So many people do it almost completely for the love of the music. That makes it beautiful to me.
Probably the same might be happening in the poetry world, the watercolor world, or photography or ballet, whatever. Yeah, it's when you want to pursue this thing that you do, and you follow it wherever it's going to take you.
Yep. So for those listeners who may not yet be familiar with Darrell Scott String Band, can you recommend 2 or 3 songs that they should listen to and say, just to get them familiar with the sound, the approach, the mission, philosophy, the vibe of the band?
Yeah, probably the starting point would be, we did a live album here in town, my town of Nashville, at the Station Inn. Station Inn is, probably similar to some of the smaller bars you were talking about in your area. Mm-hmm. It's just that it's the epicenter of, if all the giants of your genre of, say, bluegrass or string band or whatever we call this, is sitting here in Nashville, where they're going to be playing down at the Station Inn, whether it's Bill Monroe or John Hartford, Peter Rowan and the Days. And, so all the best are there. That album of us, Live at the Station Inn, is a perfect place to start because it's us live, you know? And we
Right.
have two albums. One's a studio album called Old Came Back Rocker.
Mhm.
And there's still a live approach of sorts into that studio recording because that's just sort of what I do. I know that live is a very special environment.
Mhm.
And if you can bring that environment into a non-live, no audience thing, that's a good quality to have.
Right.
That live album, Live at the Station Inn, that's us. That's what we do. And you'll hear extended solos, you'll hear harmony, you'll hear that we kind of don't know what is coming next. So
That's
that
cool.
sort of improvisational, how long will the banjo solo go on? And how long will the fiddle, tear it up? And those elements are sitting there in that recording. And I bet that's what we show up with up at the Grey Fox, is that same general, we know what we're doing, but there's also very much room for what's going to happen today.
Well, that spontaneity is what really makes a lot of the magic in the music. I cannot help myself. I got to geek out for a minute. Do you guys use direct input? And,
Yeah.
how do you do your sound?
Yeah, sound is each individual has a plug-in, except our fiddler, Shad Cobb, he's got all that stuff, but he likes to just be on the same mic that he's singing on is his fiddle mic. So most likely the places will have roughly a SM57 Shure mic thing. And I plug in DIYs and also have a microphone for the guitar. So I like that combination. So there's a little bit of the DI quack that is just inherent in DIs so that you can play to 10,000, 25,000 people, 5,000, whatever it is, in a large stage and sound system. But then the acoustic mic is there to get a little of the wood and the air and that kind of thing. So we're all plug-ins, and a couple of us, 2 or 3 of us, have a microphone to step into as well.
Right. Cool.
And that's pretty well what we do.
Very cool. Thank you for indulging my geekiness. So Grey Fox is rapidly approaching, and I'm wondering if you have a Grey Fox story or outstanding memory you'd like to share with us.
Well, let's see. Well, my memories of Grey Fox is actually at a former location than where it is right now. I've only played once at where it is right now. And so on those Grey Foxes, I played with Steve Earle as the Bluegrass Duke, so I played banjo in that. Other times at the old Grey Fox, it would be Tim O'Brien and I as a duo, or Tim O'Brien Band and I'm in it. Other times I've done John Cowan, Pat Flynn, and me as a trio.
Wow.
Kinds of things. And so a lot of times Grey Fox to me is a place to go explore musically. I know how to do prepared pieces, so to speak, but the real fun is the stuff we don't know. Like, how is it going to be tonight? So the kinds of folks I play with speak that language. Yes, we know the tune, but now let's mess it up, kind of thing. Let's do it differently tonight, or at least, I'm feeling like extra solos. So stay tuned and support me as I go off on more of a tangent than just my 8 bars or whatever kind of thing. So there's those qualities. And I just find festival folks, are hardy. And it could be 100 degrees. I've done the 100-degree things at Grey Fox before. So like some of the hottest temperatures it feels like I've ever played in was Grey Fox at the old location. But the people are hardy, man. We're here for music. So they just spray their heads, or if it's raining, put on rain gear or whatever and get through. It's like a big fishing expedition that you're not going home. You've decided to fish for 3 days or whatever on a boat, and you take what you need in order to function for those 3 or 4 days. And so there's a hardiness to the Grey Fox folks, and they're just ready. And it's a great community of drinks and food and dance and music and late nights, and it's pure fun. There's a reason why I know people who've been coming for decades. They wouldn't miss it, and they come even early. There's even a sub Grey Fox that meets earlier than Grey Fox's hours and days.
Yeah.
They get together like days ahead of that and start Grey Fox before Grey Fox starts. That's how hardcore it is. So it's a hardcore group of people.
It is definitely a community. I know our co-host, Liz Wolfe, has been going forever. And she's one of those, she goes up there several days early and sets out, I think they call it the Foxhole, where they
That's
have the pre-festival. And I don't know how she does it, but she's up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, jamming every night, and then up in the morning, so on and so forth. And we're up there as the podcast in residence this year, which means we're, among other things, we're going to be leading jams and so on.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to it.
You better get your sleep habits together.
I haven't got sleep habits, Darrell.
You have 3 or 4 weeks now to try to get it together, stay up till 3 or 4, and then get up at 8.
Yeah. Well, the 3 or 4 is not a problem for me. It's the 8 that's always been this stumbling block. But
Exactly.
I'm very motivated when I'm up there because I know I have a limited time to play as much music as possible. My problem is I'll be on my way to listen to some music and I'll hear the thump of a bass and just sort of veer and wind up standing around jamming instead of going to listen to bands.
Yeah, that sounds like a bluegrass festival.
So let's talk about what's coming up for the string band. We know we got Grey Fox and we'll all be up there and we can't wait to actually see and meet you in person. But after that, what's exciting for the coming summer, fall?
Because I said, the band only does maybe 6 to 8 festivals per year.
Right.
But I'm running around doing solo things for the rest of that time, roughly speaking. And then Rob Ickes and I have done a few dates as a duo, just the two of us. So that's what's happening this year too. A bunch of solo things of me. It's just me and, showing up at a place and making a night of it. But in terms of the string band itself, we have started a recording, but I've been thinking this band is so good. We just need to really put an album together with this, with Rob added into it. This is an opportunity, And so I've been thinking that we need to do that and collect the songs and just show up somewhere, some studio place and do it. But it's just been a thought process thus far. We don't have any dates, but I think the band is that good. And I think we're ready to, no questions asked, just get a collection of songs and show up and throw down and come out with an album of this band, with Rob included. So I bet we do that because that's the kind of nagging feeling that I get. I follow those intuitions or those thoughts, you know. So I'll bet you before the year's over, we're in the studio. We did go in the studio, my studio, last summer, and I think we did a 4-song recording, and that was a good start. But I think I would treat it more like pre-production and just re-record stuff and kind of go for a different concept of how to record technically. By putting us all together sometime before the end of the year, I'll bet. Yeah.
Wait to see what comes out of that. How would you characterize the music of the Darrell Scott String Band if you could characterize it?
Well, it sounds a lot like bluegrass at times, but I didn't call it the Darrell Scott Bluegrass Band, and I could have easily, but I didn't. It's not bluegrass in the full tilt way, but it seems like the term string band is very related to bluegrass, but it also has, an escape hatch in which to not be considered bluegrass in its naming, because it's just a name. The string band thing has historically possibly has more of a cognitive of jazz, and I don't feel any need to think that I need to be bluegrass in sort of the traditional way. I like the instrumentation, but let's change up the songs, a little bit. So that's where the original songs come in. That's where instrumental jazz, even jazz tinged things come in. Because in this group that I've got, they can handle it all. Matt Flender may write more compositions than anyone I know in the bluegrass world. There was literally a time when he was touring with his trio where they would literally write a song a day each. That meant that night they're doing 3 new songs that they didn't have yesterday. So that's how far he can push himself, and he comes out with the goods, is the point. So, and Rob Ickes has made a jazz-tinged record with just dobro and piano. Shad Cobb could handle bebop. He could handle anything. So I'm with musicians who can handle more than the straight up kick-ass bluegrass stuff. And so I'll bet when we get in the studio, we're going to come up with our version of what we want. Again, by calling us the string band, I bypassed the bluegrass expectation. because I feel no need to serve such an expectation. I want to play music, and I love the instrumentation of bluegrass, and I even love much of bluegrass. I get it very much, but I'm looking for, in addition to, so to speak. And so that's why I went for this moniker of string band, because it's not as used.
Right.
And I'd rather hook up my situation to the, the little more peculiar, and you can't pin it down. And well, we can't even hire these guys at our bluegrass festival because they're not even called the Darrell Scott Bluegrass Band. And that's like, yeah, right. So don't hire us, we'll hang around for the right stuff, the right thing. And they're just great players, and bluegrass is just one part of it, possibly an obvious part of it, but cinched it by not calling us a bluegrass band.
You're leaning in the direction, but you're leaving the door open for other influences and other outputs.
Totally.
So if listeners want to find out more about you and the band, where online should they be looking?
I guess it would be my website, darrellscott.com.
Okay.
Because all that stuff's up there. And again, because I do a number of things, some of it is this string band, some of it is the duo with Rob.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is solo, just me. Some of it's, I've got more of an electric band thing where I just play electric all night instead of acoustic at all. The acoustic doesn't even come out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a rockin' and possibly leans in the jam band-ish. But that's the whole thing. No matter what I do, I think I'm doing a genre mix and match thing anyway. And so all that stuff is at my website. That's where you could find any of that stuff.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you up at Grey Fox. I promise you I'll ignore that thumping bass and I'll come directly to the stage when you're on.
Well, we got a thumping bass too, so just follow the louder thumping bass.
There we are.
And you'll come to our set.
Really looking forward to it. And it was a fascinating conversation. I'm glad we got to dig deep into the songwriting and other aspects. Fascinating stuff. All right, Darrell, thanks again for your time, and I look forward to seeing you up at Grey Fox.
Thanks, Mike. See you there.
Well, I'd love for us to have a conversation about our festival experiences this past weekend. You were at Porch Stomp, which unfortunately I missed because I was out on Telluride. So tell us about the festival.
Yeah, let's talk about that. For those who may not be familiar, Porch Stomp is a one-day festival held on Governor's Island, and it's completely community-driven, meaning we have people from the music community curating stages, recruiting bands, and from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on 21 separate stages scattered around the island, there's musicians playing, singing, dancing, reciting poetry, anything that moves them, they're doing. And it's quite an incredible experience.
And Bluegrass Brooklyn had a stage. How did that go?
Yes, we did. It was amazing. So, and I think it's pretty much a good example of what goes on. We had 12 bands, all drawn from around the jam circles in Brooklyn and New York. Almost 40 musicians, 5 hours of music, including yours truly with Maynard and the South Brooklyn Stompers. By the way, Maynard is one of those little dancing puppets that when you hit the pedal, he dances and clicks. So he was the central character. We also got to perform on the Swamp in the City stage. So Swamp meets Stomp. Swamp of the City is the amazing Cajun Creole festival that takes place here in New York every year. All of our favorite organizations were represented: Cowgirl Seahorse, Jalopy Theater, the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music. It was just a wonderful day, and you could feel the community, and you really got a wonderful feel for what the music scene here is in New York. It was held on the summer solstice, Saturday, June 20th, and it will be on the same summer solstice day next year. So if you're in the city, you owe it to yourself. Hop the ferry. It's free. You get a great view of the Statue of Liberty, and then you get to spend a wonderful day with all of musical New York.
Also, there's jamming at Porch Stomp. My friends Trevor and Conchi hosted the Hudson Family Jam, which I saw some pictures for. Looked like a lot of fun. And then, of course, Sunny's, another iconic venue, also hosted a jam. So if you're planning on going in the future, bring your instrument because there is some jamming to do.
Yeah, there's some participatory stages where members of the community just get up and play. The Swamp in the City stage, we had a Cajun dance lesson where we learned two steps and waltzes, and Maynard and the Stompers were in the background playing those waltzes and two steps. It was just an incredibly fun day. But I got to ask, what was it like at Telluride?
Well, Telluride is an amazing festival. 10,000 people, they say, total show up.
Oh.
It is quite a spectacle of musicians, all varieties, 3 different stages. I'm going to say, though, that my first reaction when somebody asked me how did it go is make sure you bring wool sweaters, because I did not, and I was very cold that night. And it was a good thing my friend had all the camping gear. It swings from like 85, 90 during the day, very bright sun, to very cold at night. It's right up there in the mountains. One day I took the gondola up to the top of the mountain. I missed some good music, but I thought, I'm in Colorado and I want to get to see the mountains and the view. The gondola is free. You can ride it as much as you want. It's part of their public transportation system.
Wow, amazing. Was it a lot of bluegrass, or was it mixed genre, or what did you find there?
Well, I think that the Telluride, based on the sign that I saw hanging from the stage, is actually the Bluegrass and Country Festival.
There's a hint.
So I think people have shortened it to saying it's bluegrass. There were definitely some amazing bluegrass artists there, some of whom we have interviewed and some of whom we will interview, including Michael Cleveland and Jason Carter, some other folks. But I heard a lot of electric guitar, a lot of drums. I even heard a brass section. The late night bands, they had a lot of big country band experiences. And so that just was a different experience for me. My friend and I were like, I want to hear more banjo. But there was no lack of things to do. It's right there in this incredible little town called Telluride. It was a pretty fascinating experience.
And we're planning a full Telluride recap with you reporting on your experience there, right?
That's right. I did recordings of some of the artists and a late night jam. And also, I really want to share with people what they can expect when they go to Telluride. But I could tell you up front, you should bring warm clothing.
New sweaters. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that episode. And it was fun recapping our recent festival experiences.
And there's so much more to come. Of course, the next thing coming up for us is the Grey Fox Music Festival. We've been hearing a lot about. Can't wait to go. Of course, I also have the Wind Gap AFBA Festival coming up. Right. I've got the Ashokan Bluegrass Week coming up, as well as Silver Bay, which is at the end of August. So there is a lot coming up. What do you have coming up, Mike?
Well, yes, Grey Fox, we're podcast in residence there. So that's going to be an incredible experience, and especially looking forward to hosting the Outlaw Jam, but also meeting all the folks, hearing the Grey Fox stories, etc. And then later in August, I'll be headed to the Ashokan Center, but for the Southern Week instead of bluegrass this year. That's classic country, Cajun, and Creole, and it's going to be an amazing experience, I'm sure. September, this is a preview. Our podcast has been invited to cover the Earl Scruggs Music Festival in Western North Carolina, which is one of the main events centered around bluegrass and centered around the Earl Scruggs Center down there. But again, the festival season is kind of insane, and we're both wind up being so busy.
Yeah, and I just realized I forgot to mention Podunk, which is happening in Connecticut. I'm not sure my husband is aware of all this. Be honest.
It's sort of like The Hobbit, where Gandalf introduces one dwarf at a time, and it's sort of, well, there's one, now there's two, now there's three. Wait, there's number 4. So we will definitely be reporting from Grey Fox. We'll be covering the Earl Scruggs Music Festival, and as we encounter interesting personalities and topics, we'll bring them back into the show. Long time gone, yeah.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast, as well as share it. I'm sure you know some folks that love bluegrass and want to hear these incredible artists and interviews we're having with people. So we'd love it if you could share it. And of course, look forward to seeing you online at bluegrassjamsnearme.com. Go on there, find the local bluegrass jam.
Okay, so thanks again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you around the jam circle.
Hot diggers.